what do you feel some of your qualifications for mayor are?
Yeah, we're still, what can I say? I've been on the radio I can't even begin. That would take 2 hours to go over.
Okay, so the list is too long.
List is just too long. Action. Those will be for our outtakes, though. For the outtakes. Put that on for outtakes. Have an outtake segment.
That's good. Oh, man. Hey, guys. Welcome to today's Go Headquarters podcast. I am Brandon Rahe, and with me today is special guest Matt Potak.
Thanks for having me.
Future mayor of St. Augustine. To introduce Matt and I go way back, probably about 10 years or so.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah, 10 years. We've been in the gyms together all this time doing different stuff, starting way back doing some powerlifting, bodybuilding. We've talked about probably every training methodology you can think of between now and then as far as strength training goes. The facility we were in then didn't really allow Olympic lifting, so that wasn't really an option. We couldn't snatch or do clean and jerks and stuff like that, which I wish we could have, obviously, that time. But yeah, Matt's a great athlete. He's a really, really strong power lifter, and he's made a lot of progress in the CrossFit world lately, working special skills like muscle-ups and butterfly pull-ups and everything like that. He's one of the hardest training athletes that I know. He's super dedicated. He's in the gym, 10 days a week, so to speak, if he could be, and does not mind lifting heavy objects, that's for sure. So tell me a little bit about what you've done, like competitively as far as some powerlifting stuff and your sports background.
Started off, played football as a young middle schooler, elementary school age. Into middle school, did all the regular sports in middle school, football, basketball, track, baseball. And then when I got into high school, I got a little bit more serious about sports. Did football, wrestling, weightlifting. And eventually when I was done with high school, started doing powerlifting at first. Had a lot of fun doing that, and then eventually got into competitive bodybuilding. Won 2 championships, Ancient City Classic and the Gateway Classic in Lake City, in my weight class, of course. Eventually got away from that, kind of did weightlifting, powerlifting, and then started doing more CrossFit stuff as CrossFit got more popular and we had a facility to train at, so started to do more CrossFit, cross-training, I should say, at first, because at first it wasn't CrossFit, it was just CrossFit style training, just different exercises, different kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, so back before anyone had heard of CrossFit, I remember us having good conversations at the gym where we would do our bodybuilding training, and we were always talking about like the bodybuilding.com forums, what methods people were doing, Jim Jones,
exactly.
Methods.
The 300
we
workout.
heard the 300 workout, that kind of stuff going on where people were, flipping tires and climbing ropes and dragging sandbags around and all sorts of crazy stuff, and we would start playing with this stuff at the gym. We built, plyometric boxes to start getting box jumps going, because the gym that we were at didn't have any of that functional equipment. It was just kind of machinery, and
it was
some
we had
some
a tire in the back.
So we got some tires, we got all that stuff going. We started playing with that stuff way back in the day before anyone heard of CrossFit, and of course now everything seems to be categorized as CrossFit, unfortunately. Which is a pet peeve of mine. I hate that someone sees you doing like a box jump and they assume, oh, you do CrossFit.
Exactly.
It's kind of like I don't know.
Yeah, it's a pain, because even when I was in high school, we did some stuff where we would pull sleds, flip tires a little bit, just pick up odd objects, run with them. I remember bringing barbells outside and doing maybe a clean and press for 5 reps and then running 100 yards across the field and then doing a few burpees and then running back. So CrossFit started officially in 2001, got more popular, especially the last 4 or 5 years, but a lot of this stuff was going on before any of that. I mean, people were doing this stuff in the 80s and 90s, similar stuff.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of the history from Matt and I. So anyway, the reason I've got Matt on the podcast today is to talk about where CrossFit is right now on a competitive level, mainly talking about the CrossFit Open coming up here for 2015. There's been a huge shift in what's about to happen, and Matt and I have some thoughts on what we think is going to go down and how that's going to affect people. So backing up a little bit of history on the CrossFit Open, started in 2011, and this is basically a worldwide open competition for anyone that wants to participate. You do a series of 5 weekly workouts. They announce 1 workout per week for 5 straight weeks. You participate in the workout either at a local CrossFit affiliate gym, and they kind of verify your score and prove that you did a certain level of performance, and they submit that on the CrossFit main site website. and kind of get all that information into a leaderboard, and you see where you stack up against all these other people. And you do that for 5 straight weeks, and you don't know what workouts are coming week to week. So big success, like hundreds of thousands of people.
Started out 26,000 in 2011 to, I believe it was 60,000 or 54 or something like that in 2012. And then 13, 14, it just completely, it's over 200,000 now.
Yeah, over 200,000 this past year.
I think it was 140,000 in 13. And then 12, it may have been close to 100,000. So it's just grown rapidly over the last, 2-3 years.
Yeah, tremendous growth, and it's honestly an awesome competition. And one of the things that stands out for me in the CrossFit Open, and the explanation of that by CrossFit, by Dave Castro, the director of programming, was the spirit of the Open. And the idea behind the spirit of the CrossFit Open is that any Joe Schmo off the street that does CrossFit, it could be your first month of participating in this type of working out. That person can compete in the Open and post a score and get results on the leaderboard and compare themselves against the best people in the world from any region, from anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the spirit of the Open. And anyway, that's one of the things that's about to shift. We'll get into that in a second. So at the end of the 5 weeks, right, you see where you stack up, and the top 48
in each region,
men and women from each region, so the world's kind of broken down into different regions. The top 48 men and women go to regionals and then compete live against each other in a venue of some kind, depending on where you are. And then the top 5 from each region go on to...
3 from each region.
Or top 3, I'm sorry.
From
top 3, thank you. From each region go on to the Games, which is the now ESPN televised, like really popular event.
World Championship of CrossFit.
$500,000 prize for the first place male and female finishers, which is a lot of cash. So this has become like a money-making enterprise for everyone involved. And anyway, we're finally seeing an evolution of that.
We are, yeah. And CrossFit's actually the most prize money. They award more prize money than the World's Strongest Man competition, than the Mr. Olympia competition in bodybuilding, any powerlifting competition. So they've actually, for just a regular athlete who competes in CrossFit, you have more capabilities to make money in CrossFit than you do in the other sports, for the most part. I'm not talking about the mainstream football, basketball, those pro sports. It's more the smaller sports, the strength sports. CrossFit is completely, the prize money for being the best CrossFitter outweighs the other ones.
Yeah, and powerlifting as a prize-winning event has been around forever. Strongman's been around forever.
Olympic weightlifting's been around since, forever. Also since the 40s or 50s. So it's even before that. But way more money in a short amount of time too. It's not even been really, when you look at it, 10 years. Only since 2007, that was the first CrossFit Games. So you can't even. It's not even 10 years yet. It's almost there.
Yeah, already $500,000 prize.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened this year, and part of what we want to get into, and we're going to do a lot of speculating here, so none of this is coming from CrossFit headquarters or anything like that, but we got an announcement watching the CrossFit Invitational a few weeks back that Dave Castro hinted at the fact that there's going to be some major changes to the Open this year for 2015. One main thing is they're introducing a scaled versus basically a competitive, or what we call RX division. Now, in a normal workout, is for those of you that don't know those terms, scaled is taking a known parameter. Let's say you're supposed to deadlift, 21 reps, and you're supposed to use 135 pounds. For someone that's not capable of deadlifting 135 pounds for the prescribed number of repetitions, they need to scale that back in some capacity. So the first thing we're probably going to do is modify the weight, right? We're going to scale that back to whatever their abilities are that day. 75 pounds, 85 pounds, whatever it might be. So there's kind of 2 main categories that people compete in CrossFit. There's scaled divisions, and then there's the RX division, which means you are doing everything as prescribed, and you have a certain level of benchmark performance that you're capable of. So one of the first things we heard was that there's going to be a scaled and an RX type of division for the Open. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Don't like it because, as you said earlier, CrossFit, the Open has always been a worldwide, everybody does it together. You can measure up against the best of the best. The spirit of the CrossFit Open was just outstanding. You could talk to anybody. I remember talking to people over this past fall, seeing people at, just sporting events in town or in a different county, and you see somebody with a CrossFit shirt on, and you can go up and you can talk to them right away about the Open. Say, hey, how'd you do in that deadlift workout last year? How'd you do in this workout? It was just something we all talked about. I mean, any CrossFitter can talk about it. You can go on websites. There's always coaching websites where they'll have strategy for specific WODs. Once the WOD's announced, within an hour, a couple hours, there's strategy tips for the workout. So everybody really came together because everybody was doing it. The best guys were doing it to the newcomers. So I was just a little disappointed. I was kind of hoping we would keep it the same. I think it works. I mean, it still was working. The best guys were going to the games. I just think you might as well keep it the way it is.
Yeah, I agree that the spirit of the games, the concept of everyone can do the same workouts and stack up against each other, I feel like that is going to be lost right now. And the programming is obviously going to change. We'll get to that in just a second. What was happening in the old years was that the newer comers to CrossFit would get to a certain point in the workout. They would reach a certain maybe exercise or a certain weight, and they would get stuck right there. They weren't capable to continue the workout. Maybe they couldn't do double unders. Maybe they didn't have muscle ups. Maybe they couldn't snatch the next level weight, so their workout ended right there. And I think that's part of why they're separating these two divisions. But ultimately, I think the main decision is coming from a elitist type of mentality that they only want to take the absolute best of the best athletes to go to regionals, and then, of course, progressing there for the games. I think what they were seeing over the years was that people would be really good at the Open because of the format of the workouts, but they'd go to regionals and the true colors would kind of shine through, that they couldn't handle the heavy weights or they couldn't handle the complexity of the movements or whatever it was, even though they did so well in the Open.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was weight, difficulty, because you get into pistols when you get to regionals, you get into higher advanced gymnastic skills, which a lot of the guys probably weren't used to doing, that would post these top scores in the Open workouts. They just had really good engines. The weights get higher, like I said, high level gymnastic movements. I mean, you're doing legless rope climbs last year, more higher volume of muscle ups, like last year's Nasty Girls Volume 2, that was a lot tougher, more volume. So it was catching people.
Yeah, handstand walks obviously changed the game.
Yeah, I mean, that took
strict
out
handstand push-ups when handstand push-ups at all aren't in the Open.
Yeah.
So
difficult. Definitely a lot of differences when you go from the Open to regionals. It's a lot tougher.
Yeah. Another thing that has changed is that they used to take 48 of the top men and women from each Open regional to go to regionals. And now they have reduced that to only 20 athletes. This is a huge reduction. And there is a huge difference between the bottom 10 regional competitors, the 38 to 48 rankings, and those top 10 as far as performance capabilities. Huge difference. So I can understand why they're doing this.
Yes.
But I think, for me anyway, it kind of crushes my spirits of training hard to try to make that kind of top 50 cutoff to go to regionals. Only taking 20 is... So in the Southeast region, we had 7,800 men.
Yeah, 7,800
I mean, just under 8,000, and they're only taking 20 to go to regionals.
Yeah.
So that's going to change
48.
Yeah. 20. Yeah, so they're going to change the regionals a lot. What's another thing they're doing with regionals?
Well, what it's going to do is you're going to have the top 20 in Southeast regional, and I guess they're going to combine with maybe the Southwest, and they're going to come together, the top 20, and then the other top 20 come together, and it's basically a super regional. So you're going to have 40 very good athletes. I mean, I'm not going to take away from the athletes. I mean, it's going to be 40 very outstanding athletes going against each other in one big regional. And I think that's a good idea in a sense, but I think it would have been better if maybe they did the regular region, Southeast region, take the top 48, they compete, and maybe take the top 15, top 20 in that, and then go on to a super region. And then those guys would go to the games. But then you're looking at a lot more time, a lot more money that CrossFit HQ has to pay for hosting these events. So now you're going to have, just 20 from the Open workout. It's not even a region. It's Open workout, top 20 in each region, and they come together for a super region. There's 17 regions, so they might merge Africa with Europe and Australia together.
Yeah.
Volume of people. So.
Yeah, I'm sure they're doing some big numbers.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. North California goes against Southern California, so that'll be, going together, and then everybody else just kind of goes.
Yeah. So next up on this topic would definitely be programming. Now that there are two divisions for the Open, I feel is going to now be like wide open possibility and potential to program for that competitive division.
Yes.
Introduce dozens of new exercises that we haven't yet seen in the Open from previous years. What are your thoughts there? What do you think they're going to introduce?
They're going to introduce higher level gymnastic skills, because in the Open, the only high level gymnastic skill, in my opinion, that they had was chest to bar pull-ups and muscle ups. Chest to bar pull-ups are not as difficult to learn as some of these other movements that we're going to have come in. I think we're going to see we could see pistols. We're definitely going to see handstand push-ups, because we saw handstand push-ups in the team competition that happened this fall, and that was the first time we had seen handstand push-ups in one of those, worldwide competitions for CrossFit. So we're definitely going to see handstand push-ups. I don't think we'll see legless rope climbs, but I think we're going to see some form of a rope climb. I think you can use your thing, whatever, but I think we'll see rope climbs, maybe pistols. You're not going to be able to do step-ups on the box anymore. I think it's going to be box. You jump up, step down, or bound. And I think higher loads. You're going to see higher. It's not going to be the 135 power clean for reps anymore. It's probably going to be heavier, more of a ladder format.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to condense a lot of these workouts together, where you're going to do a certain amount of volume, a certain amount of work, some kind of Metcon, and then maybe at the end do a 1 rep max, or a certain amount of reps with a very heavy load, like maybe, 365 on the deadlift for as many reps as possible when you finish the regular Metcon that they have. So,
yeah.
I mean, anything can happen, really. I mean, it's going to be way more advanced, though, way more advanced.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely going to be same stuff. It's going to be more technically programmed. It's going to be heavier, most likely. One of the logistical things I think about as a gym owner is equipment. Last year we saw the introduction of rowing. So if you didn't have a rower, you had to chase a rower down. If your gym doesn't have Concept 2 rowers, because not everyone has those, they're kind of pricey. And if you're maybe doing this thing out of your garage, you may not have $1,000 to throw down on a rower. So you've all of a sudden got to find other means to participate in these workouts. And I think this one's going to go the same way. If they introduce like bar muscle ups, a lot of people don't have a pull-up bar that allows for bar muscle ups. Maybe it's too close to the wall. Maybe they've got only the double bar setups, too high. Like there's a number of logistical issues. Same with the rope climb if they do that.
And they will. I think rope climb, we're going to see some kind of rope climb.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have rope climb. They might, but I would be shocked if they had rope climb, just from a logistics standpoint and a safety standpoint. I don't know if they want like 200,000 people trying to climb a rope and then coming down, right? People start jumping and stuff like that. I think judging that's really, really hard to do.
It would be.
I think that's why they still haven't had running in there. It's like it's hard to judge who's measuring this and that.
Well, then you wonder also, are they going to make it now that, are they going to say, look, you're going to have to do it at an affiliate? I mean, are they going to make you have to do that? Because in the beginning it was, we want everyone to do it. Anyone who thinks that they're fit, come in, compete. You can film it from your phone. You can film it from your camera and send it in. Now they might say, look, because of what we want to do, you might have to go to a certain spot. You might have to go to a box, and you might have to do it there. I mean, there's a possibility they could throw that on us. I mean, you never know. Because I know over the years, less people have been filming. More people have been going to boxes and doing them.
Right. The scrutiny of the video submissions is really high. You're open to, just like putting anything online, right? You put a video of yourself up, you're open to all the criticisms of everyone out there. They can see you physically go through the workout, and they can say, no rep on this. You didn't go low enough in your squats, or you didn't lock out your muscle up at the top, whatever it is. I think judging is going to be an issue for the new stuff. If they introduce new movements like handstand push-ups, that's notoriously hard to judge because people aren't getting all the way locked out or their hands space out too far. Yeah. There's all sorts of issues.
Your hands have to be a certain length. Chest to bar pull-ups are really tricky because you can easily look like, I can put a video of myself up and I can look like from the angle that I'm hitting the bar, but I'm really not.
Yeah. And or vice versa, you can be hitting and it looks like you're not. It looks like you're not. I got no reps.
A bunch last year.
Oh man, I had to redo a workout over that stuff this past year.
13-2 or 14-2.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I definitely see more rowing, but I see more stuff. I know they say they don't want running because it's too hard to judge, but you never know. There could be a small shuttle run. I mean, who knows? I mean, but if they take away where you can't film it, there could be anything. It'd just be up to the box to have the space and all the equipment.
Right, and meet the standards. Yeah, that'd be a good point. All right, so one final, I guess, topic would be, how do you think we need to address this from two angles. One is the competitor, right? That's chasing regionals. They're kind of on the road to regionals, so to speak, and they're really working for that. And then the other one is maybe the quasi-new or CrossFitter, average enthusiast. How are those people viewing the Open with these new rules? Is the new person like excited that, oh great, I don't have to do this super hard stuff, I might have a better shot at getting through all the workouts and posting better scores? Or are they bummed that they are now in a scale division, right, which has a stigma to it, that they're not competing against Rich Froning?
I think the newer people are going to like it. I think some of the people that have had issues in the past with double unders, chest bar pull-ups, different loads, I think that the newer, inexperienced CrossFitters are going to love the scale division because it's going to be more fun. They're going to be able to go out, they're going to be able to do all the workouts, post a better score. They will enjoy it. The elite competitor really, they care, but they don't care. They're going to have to work a little bit harder to get in the top 20. I mean, it's going to be tough for elite guys because you saw Cody Anderson last year. He got, I believe, 35th in his region. He went to regionals and he ended up getting third in the region. Did a great job at the games. I believe he was newcomer of the year for CrossFit. But, you know, the elite guys are going to actually have to focus and peak a little bit more for the Open. A lot of these elite guys would just show up, bang these workouts out, go home, they're done.
Yeah.
They're top 10, top 20. But now I think you're going to see them have to work a little bit harder to get ready for the Open because they don't know what's going on. They don't know how to prepare. But in a sense, I don't think the elite guy really is going to care too much. They're just going to go out, train harder, and hope to crack the top 20. So the newer people, I think, are going to be excited about the scale division. They can post a score. The more elite people know that they can't take it not serious. They're going to have to take this Open a little bit more serious than they have in years past. I think the loser in this is kind of the middle of the pack CrossFitters. I'm starting to do well in my gymnastics, but my body weight's 150, 155 pounds on a good day, so I'm going to have a hard time with the heavy loads.
He's only like 148.
Yeah, I'm 148, yeah. But I'm going to have a hard time with the heavier loads because that's something I've been working on and getting better at, but at least I knew in the Open, it's usually lighter, so I can go in there and do really well and compete hard. But a lot of the middle of the road guys are going to have issues because really, what are you competing for? A lot of people have to be honest with themselves and say, okay, I'm definitely not going to crack the top 20, so maybe my goal is to hit, maybe under 500 in the region, be under 500, or be between 250 and 500. But I think the real losers are the middle of the road people, and it's tough because those are the ones I think that really run the Open. I mean, there's more middle of the road, tough competitors that might not be elites, but they're not below average, that really run the Open. They're the ones that pay for the Open. They're the ones that compete in the Open. So I think it's going to be tougher for those people. It's kind of like, if I want to go into politics, the middle class kind of runs the country, but we don't need to do that. So
Future mayor of St. Augustine,
yeah.
Matt Potak.
Yeah.
2020 candidate, maybe not that soon.
Got to get the funding up, so maybe a little
start campaigning.
Yeah.
Campaigning starts this year.
It starts right now, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that analysis in a lot of ways. I think the middle of the road guy is the one that's going to struggle.
Yeah.
And they've got to make this decision. There's going to have to be standards put out there for, hey, look, if you need to go in the competitive division, you need to have these benchmark abilities, right? So
yes.
You need to have ring muscle ups, you need to deadlift 315, you need to snatch 185, whatever it is. Yeah, so you're going to need to meet those restrictions. And if you are let's say you've got, 14 out of 15 of those, but then there's that 15th task that you don't have yet, that puts you down in the scale division because you're going to post a 0 for that workout maybe, and all of a sudden you've got this person that's like a pretty good operator, now they're in the scale division, so they're going to smoke the scale division when they have 95% of the abilities of the RX division. Yeah. So there's that whole thing. And we see that in local CrossFit competitions too. You've got this like really good athlete that's going scaled that you're like, ooh, that guy,
because
that guy,
he can't do double unders or something, and he's squatting 400 pounds, but he can't do a double under, so he does scaled, and he smokes all the scaled people.
And he crushes everything.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's a really hard thing to manage, I think, and I don't know. We'll see how they do the leaderboards and how this whole thing stacks up and what the participation looks like.
Yeah.
You think it's going to be higher or lower overall participation?
I'm not really sure. I think the one thing we have to look at too is CrossFit HU, Dave Castro, he said a few things. There was a few bombshells after the Invitational that he spoke about. Obviously, social media was buzzing for the last week. People are still talking about it. But there really hasn't been any statement from CrossFit HQ yet on, I'm sure they're going to do something similar to what Dave Castro said, but are they going to have, I think when it comes to participation and answering your question, I think it's going to be, is HQ going to come out and say, okay, you need to have a 185 snatch, you need to have a 315 work, deadlift for reps, you need to be able to do 5 consecutive bar muscle ups or ring muscle ups. Are they going to come out with that, or is it going to be kind of secret like it's always been, where they just say, okay, well, there's a scale division, there's a non-scale division, here we go. I think if they do that and they try to be secret, there's not going to be a lot of people that want to do it, because they're going to say, well, I don't know if I should go scaled, I don't know if I should go RX, and then they're just going to say, well, why waste the money? I mean, they're just not going to know, they're not going to really know what to do. So I think right now there's still too many questions to be answered, and I think CrossFit HQ, Dave Castro, they're going to have to come out and give us a little something, like, if you don't meet these qualifications, go RX, or go scaled. If you meet them, go RX. I think there needs to be something. And I've always thought that really they should probably have RX scaled, and they should maybe have an elite division where they say, okay, well, if you meet these numbers, you can go elite and compete for regionals, and maybe have something different for the RX people. Maybe have a different kind of competition, if you do something in the RX, but that's another topic for another day.
Yeah. I think they're definitely, I don't think they could just say, all right, here we go, pick a division. Yeah. They're absolutely going to have to define those terms.
They are.
There's no other way about it. So with that comes, I guess, our first preview of what the Open will hold also. Because if they hint at, 315 deadlift for reps.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that means there's potential for super heavy deadlift for high volume in there.
Exactly.
And normally we get, 0 hints at what's coming for the next workout, other than which athletes they show, on the preview when they release, like that Camille is going to be doing the next Open workout. There's going to be muscle ups or pull ups in there.
Some kind of gymnastics.
Right, that's the only hint we could get, and even that's speculation.
And last year they had Stacy Tovar, who's real strong. The other girl, Alexandra Picelli, I think her name was, and they did the deadlift one.
Right.
They were, box jumping and deadlifting. So when Josh Bridges was in it, that was the muscle up one.
Right.
And they had the big chipper. So it's kind of like, if they're going to give us, hopefully they give us those hints like this, that, because when you go to a local competition or a throwdown or whatever you want to call them, they'll have a list, and you'll say, okay, well, got to be able to deadlift this much, got to be able to snatch this much. Snatch looks like, they say you only need a 155-pound snatch, so the snatch is probably going to be somewhat light. Same thing with, if it's a heavy deadlift, they're probably going to have some kind of heavy deadlift in some of the workouts, Sometimes they're going to have running times and rowing times, can you row or run a certain amount? So hopefully CrossFit HQ does that and gets people excited for the Open. I mean, I do think it's going to be tougher. If they're adding a scale division, I don't see it being easier or the same. It's going to be a lot tougher. So
yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Be back on again soon.
Matt Potak, future mayor. So for those of you that are thinking about doing the 2015 CrossFit Open, I don't know if this podcast helps you at all to think about what's maybe in front of you, if you haven't thought about all these little details. But some good insight here from Matt, and thanks for joining us. Brandon Rahe, Matt Potak, Go Headquarters. We'll see you next time.